What's up guys, my name is JDCook5 and welcome back to another episode of the F1 My Team Career Mode. We are going straight into things with our next Grand Prix being in Italy, being the monumental, the humongous, the everything about it, Imola. This is going to be a huge Grand Prix and I'm looking forward to it so much. Before we get into the race and the qualifying, the practice and all them things that we like, we need to do a few upgrades and get the activities along the way just to be able to kind of maintain the team and do a few upgrades while we're at it with the budget that we have currently. We are earning a lot of money through our sponsors also, so we are able to spend on different things and we go for personnel with the simulator and that will improve our second driver also. A lot of upgrades to be done. I'm not expecting them all to pass because obviously it is nature that a lot of them can fail time to time. It is what it is though. We kind of have to do what we can, and then obviously the ones that do fail, like the ones we see here, tyre blankets, we need to go back into it and then redo it in time. We don't have enough driver acclaim to be able to do so as of the moment, but once we do, we all kind of go back onto that, and that will be a definite upgrade that will be made. It can't fail again once it already has failed. Straight into the race weekend then, and off of the back of a really good result in Miami. Obviously we thought we was going to get P3, but unfortunately for us it was P4. With the upgrades being made that I did last time in terms of the actual customization to the car and how I want it to run, and what we did in Miami, I wanted to do the same in Imola, making it suit to this particular circuit, doing my research on the car and everything else and a few kind of tips and tricks online. I was able to form a custom kind of thing to be able to have it so the car runs much smoother around this circuit and it has the best opportunity for us to be able to get in the best position possible. So a dry Imola as you can see, and yeah, we are getting straight into practice with a race strategy program that we are doing. This is going to be able to see what we can do in race and if we can match the strategies that we are going to be putting on in the race also. On the medium set of compound tyres, and this circuit is absolutely unbelievable. This is probably one of my favourite circuits to be able to race. Such a free-flowing circuit, so many tight corners, so many fast bits of the track also. This car seems very suited for it and I'm looking forward to dive myself into the track and also get myself back up to speed because obviously it's been a year since I've actually played it in terms of the last previous F1. As I say, these corners is so fast and the way you can go down the hill, up the hill, and it's so well kind of manufactured and done. A nice bit of hit as you go up the hill onto the power before you go into a tight chicane and then you go back down the hill before you do go onto the final straight. Really good lap here, being able to kind of be clean also, not exceeding any track limits as of the moment, getting used to the car, getting the tyres up to temperature as we have to complete 3 laps to be able to get enough from this race strategy. Slow into there, but we get a nice exit as we don't go on the brakes to be able to allow a nice kind of movement going through the corners as we complete the first lap with a nice delta of 1.1, and that puts us into 6th place straight away. Going on to the third lap now, near to the end part of the track, as you go down the hill before you go back up and then down again. We do go on to the third lap where again we are exceeding the delta, not by a lot though. We are green and then red as we get on the power in this straight here. We do have a driver behind us also being right on the rear of us, causing some issues. I do believe that's George Russell if I'm right in saying, as we go back on the power before we go down the hill, and we try and minimise that delta as much as possible so we don't have to complete any more laps within this race strategy and we can move on next to the practice program that we are going to complete. Fast through that bit of the track and that allows us to go on an even better delta, still saying in 6th place, and I don't think we will exceed our position. Test completed, is optimal if we want to be able to go on further, but there is no need, and we shall go on to another practice program where we can tune the car and everything else and obviously get our well-earned driver acclaim. And also we did the qualifying, but we didn't really do anything else apart from that. The other practice sessions were wet. We're not going to do any more practice anyway, and we do finish practice with the qualifying being really good in top place with Liam Lawson Lawson having the best finish he has seen in a long while, him finishing in 10th place, which is a really good finish for the first practice session as we go straight into qualifying now. Be interesting with that sort of finish in practice, what we can do now out on the track in qualifying, and hopefully we can then secure maybe a top 7 or top 6 place. That is the position that I feel really comfortable being at, and I'd quite happily finish that every race for this first season. When you're slower and you're down the pack even more, it isn't as interesting to play, and I don't feel like it gives the best content for you guys also. As we go then to lap 1, Fernando Alonso having a 1:18.07 being completed there as we go into the corners, and then more the fastest lap 1:17.555 for Carlos Sainz as we go up the hill on the very fast part of the track, with the overtake button being absolutely drained. Obviously it is constantly on for the qualifying, you don't get any manual control over it as you go back down the hill before we hit the few corners going into the tight chicanes, late on into the brakes as we go up the hill, accelerating as hard as possible, gaining as much power as we possibly can out of this exit, late on into the brakes before we go into this tight chicane. Hard to not be able to exceed track limits, but we do well. 1:16.844 being completed now, fastest lap being by Lewis Hamilton. 2 green sectors, no purples, so we're not exceeding anyone else's lap time as we go into the last few corners. This one being the last one as we gain a nice bit of momentum through the corner, and we go out here onto the final straight with a decent bit of pace about the car, and we do come in 3rd place. A 1:17.686 being completed, and we still are well far off the opposing drivers. We are 6th place at the moment, Liam Lawson being in 18th, and I didn't actually feel like I really needed to complete any laps. 5th place I'm in, sorry, not 6th. And I felt like that was a decent lap. We did get a 3rd purple sector in the end after completing 2 laps, but the other sectors didn't really get any near. I mean, what, with 400ths of a sector away from from Verstappen on sector 1, and then we're not too far, we're only 100ths of a second on sector 2, so I think the divulge of things of where we're losing the time is definitely sector 1. We gain it a lot in sector 2, and then our strongest is in sector 3. With that being said, and me not completing any more laps, it drops us down to 6th place, but we are not fast. Real poor performance from Liam Lawson after a really good practice. Unfortunately for him, he is in 22nd, being last on the grid for this race. As I say, 6th place is a real good position to be in, and hopefully we can get an even better start.
Welcome once again to the Autodromo Internazionale Enzo e Dino Ferrari. The clue's in the name. This is very much Ferrari home turf, and the locals will be out in force today to support their team in what we hope will be a magnificent spectacle of motorsports. On then to the Emilia-Romagna Grand Prix. 3.1 miles of track at Imola, featuring 19 turns, 9 to the right and 10 to the left. Remember that Imola differs from most other Formula 1 tracks as it's taken anti-clockwise. Let's hope nobody forgets that today. The exit from turn 18 will probably be the setup for many of today's overtakes, leading as it does into the longest straight on the circuit, and its only DRS zone. It's time to take a look at our starting grid for today's race. Max Verstappen put in a fantastic lap yesterday, and he'll start from pole position, with Charles Leclerc alongside. Considering the rest of the grid, we have Perez, Hamilton, Russell, Cook, Sainz, Fernando Alonso, Norris, Joe, Bottas, Hülkenberg, Gasly, Oscar Piastri, Ocon, Tsunoda, Magnussen, Stroll, Albon, Sargent, De Vries, Sargent. And with lights out just moments away, it's time to go down to the track. Anthony Davidson is here once again for today's Grand Prix. Let's talk about Cook. What do you make of their performance so far this season?
Well, the atmosphere within that team seems very positive at the moment. Everyone seems like they're in great spirits and having a lot of fun doing what they do, and that's definitely contributed to the performances we've seen.
So here we go then in Imola, formation lap nearly coming to an end before we get to the final corners, warming up the tyres as much as we possibly can, allowing ourselves for the best start possible in this Grand Prix. Just a reminder, we are in P6 with George Russell and Hamilton in front of us. They're on the medium compound tyre with us on the softer compound tyre, and then Carlos Sainz and Fernando Alonso behind myself also. This is going to make up for a stonker of a race. and I cannot wait to get beyond and just get racing. As we wait for the grid to form up, we are waiting patiently before them lights go out and we can go racing here in Imola. The anticipation is building, and this has been a mega weekend for us so far, and hopefully we can make that continue as we reach optimal RPM before we get ready to go here in Imola. It is lights out and away we go with an awesome start from us, with a massive force being able to get past George Russell there. A collision being made with Carlos Sainz going into the back of us. The FIA giving us a warning. We are past Hamilton also. This is made a mega start to this race. Hamilton and George Russell, both teammates, tussling it out behind us, as you can see in the rear view mirror, going wheel to wheel into this bit of corner as we go onto the first bit of track. And now this is on lap 1 of 22. Sergio Perez just in front of us, 1.1 second splits him and myself. And then we have Hamilton 1.2 and then Russell 1.2 also, so they're very close to each other. But we've gained a nice gap with them having a little tussle behind us. That allows us to be able to gain as much time possible because they're only focusing on them positions, not what is in front of them, being myself. Going up the hill now, and Sergio Perez is gaining a very fast gap, and you can see that he is definitely in the faster car. On the medium tyre, he's definitely warmed them up very quickly, and he's making them work as much as possible. That might have been the better tyre to use as we go further on in the race. Overtake button being managed as we go into the final first few corners, and now 1.3 seconds up in front of us, 1.5 and 1.9 behind us. The gap getting even bigger as we get a nice corner around there, hitting onto the straight. The ERS is commencing. Max Verstappen the fastest lap of the race onto lap 1 of 22. Second lap now, and we are nearing the lap end, so it'll be lap 3 of 22 as we go even further now. Real good gap, 2-second gap. Max Verstappen getting the fastest lap. Sergio Perez, Max Verstappen's teammate, getting the fastest lap, and DRS is enabled, so if they gain a second gap, they were able to get the DRS, whether that is in front of me or behind me. Lap 3 of 22, 1.9 seconds splits me and Hamilton, with 2.2 seconds with me and Russell. Engineer with some heartbreaking news, and we are monitoring a power issue with the engine, but we have some big wear on there, as you can see. As we go further on into the details, the MGHU is 51%, the ICE is 55%. Be interesting to see what sort of power levels we have at the end of this race, hoping it won't affect us too much as we look to contain this 4th place as we go into lap 3 of 22, going into these last few corners to be able to finish this lap and go on to lap 4 of 22. 1.6 seconds between myself and Hamilton as we gain a nice bit of time going through that corner. We seem very strong as we hit the straight. Bit on the curb there, and we will lose some time from that, even if it is a couple of 100 seconds. It all matters as the gap shrinks to 1.5 and then 500 as we get near to the end of lap 5 of 22. Really late onto the brakes and really wide on that corner also. We don't seem to be taking it that well, and we can't get the car under control, fighting it as much as we possibly can, hoping we will not exceed any track limits. With that being said, Hamilton is even closer to us. Verstappen getting the fastest lap, but he is nothing to worry about. He is way forward. Hamilton is our next worry with the DRS, maintaining a decent bit of speed, and he is on the right hand side of me, myself getting the inside of this corner, wheel to wheel in this corner, and we do go late onto the brakes, and so does Hamilton. No one is bottling out of this one as we edge past him, and we go even further from 600, 700 a second, so I think he kind of went late onto the brakes but had to slow himself down, and that does make him lose a little bit of time as we go onto this bit of the track there, losing a bit of time ourselves as we go up the hill. 200 of a second, 300 of a second splits me and Hamilton. Russell nowhere to be seen, but he's only 600 of a second, so he's still in the race. 8.4 seconds splits myself and Sergio Perez, so it's definitely for a race for 4th, 5th and 6th as we stand as of the moment, going down the hill before we go up late on into the brakes, but not too hard as we need to gain a little bit of momentum coming out the corner. Don't want to go too hard onto the brakes because you can have it where you just kind of go through the corner without having the accelerator or the brake being pushed. Going over the camber there and wide again, and it will make us lose time. Doesn't seem to be too bad, but only 300 of a second, 200 of a second as we go down the hill, not having any sort of overtakes being made on me just yet, but he will be taking a look when it comes to the overtaking with the DRS, and it will be interesting to see if he has any ERS. I'm on about 40% of overtake as of the moment, not trying to drain it too much as we have Hamilton in our rear view mirror, 300 of a second, 200 of a second. He decides to go on the inside line. I am on the outside as he goes late on into the brakes, and he doesn't get out of the corner as much as he would like to, and that finds Lewis Hamilton in this Grand Prix on the gravel, and he depletes down into the pecking order, and that finds himself going into the 22nd, I do believe, and that ruins his race going into lap 7 of 22. His teammate won't mind as such though, as that puts him up to 5th place with 300 of a second, splits myself and Russell, but that is a massive crash for Hamilton. Obviously, if he's still in this race and didn't go into the wall, there's no damage, but that will definitely be a shock to the system for him and Mercedes as he looks to put an end to his Imola Grand Prix in some sort of style that he wished it wouldn't have been. That he was having a really strong race also, but George Russell seems to be able to have an even stronger one as he goes wheel to wheel down the hill as we collide with the grinding of the car, but no collision being noted by the FIA as we look to complete lap 8 of 22 now. Sainz going past George Russell also. That will be a bit of a race with the DRS. I do believe they'll both get it, with the Sainz being behind me initially by a second and then George Russell just behind, but we have a three-way trade, and that looks to be Lando Norris joining the party also as he goes into P5. What a mental couple of laps. Really big a tussle with Norris, Russell, and I don't even know who's behind there. There's been so many drivers that have been going in and out of the positions, fighting for the top 5 as we weave in and out of the corners, hitting straight on the power as we look to go halfway through lap 9. Keep an eye with 10.7 seconds. Oh my lord, we were drifting around that corner. 10.7 seconds splits us and Leclerc, but we're going to be getting nowhere near him, and I'm not looking to overtake him anytime soon as we look to complete lap 10 of 22. We look behind us to see Norris still there, Russell there also, and I do believe the next man is Sainz. Pit window open, being lap 10 out of 14, ready for the mediums to be put on as we look to see if we are going to stick with this strategy or move onwards and might even go a bit more few laps. It just depends who catches up behind us and depends where the tyres are at right now. In all honesty, I think we are probably ready for the pit stop. As you can see, we're swerving side to side. Before we say anything else though, George Russell is on the left hand side and he does go straight past us. A lovely move by George Russell, and we had no way of covering ourselves to be able to block it, and he looks to be well ahead now as we go further on in this Imola Grand Prix. We go wide on that corner and we are so struggling to get the car turned with a decent amount of space and everything else, the speed, the precision. We just don't seem to kind of get that one corner, and that is it. Russell gets a really good drive, but we're going to be completing lap 10 of 22 in the pit as we look to change out these softs with being 40% on the softs there. As I say, it's one of those where we need to change them out now, and it is definitely the case of where they have run their course. Once it gets to a certain percentage on the tyres, we need to be looking to change them straight away, just to kind of allow ourselves to get decent lap times. A really good pit stop, but we are behind Lando Norris. I don't know how that has happened. I think he's even had a quicker one than us. We had a 2.4 pit stop also, which is very surprising, and Norris comes up ahead of us. He gets the DRS and he seems to be better on the colder tyre as he looks to go past, and the 700th of a second splits us and Norris, and 600th of a second splits myself and Fernando Alonso. This is shaping up to be an unreal Grand Prix, and I'm really enjoying my time in this Imola circuit as we go up the hill on the attack to be able to try and to see if we can go past Lando Norris at any point in time. We're definitely going to have to get these tyres much more warmer as we look to go on the inside now. Lap 12 of 22, a green and purple sector as we try to nail this corner, but once again it seems to be the victim of going wide, but we hasn't seemed to hampered our speed too much as we go down the hill with Loris having the slipstream, Charles Leclerc with the fastest lap. And we look just to see, just trying to edge it out. We're not trying to go too hard onto the brakes and go into the back of him. He gains a nice bit of corner speed, but we're going to have the advantage with the DRS and the overtake button on as we look to go side by side with Lando Norris, trying to eke out, and we do that, and we are able to get past Lando Norris nice and cleanly. He allows us the space. He has a little bit of respect for us as we go past, and now lap 13 out of 22, and this has been much better from us now. We've got the mediums working for us, and hopefully we can get some decent lap times under our belt. And they keep mentioning about the car ahead of me, but this is definitely not something I'm thinking about. position P4 would definitely be the best bet for us. Lap 14 out of 22 now, but yeah, lap P4 would definitely be the best spot for us to be in at the end of the day. With the car that way it is, and that I think we're overachieving as it is anyway, so for us to be in P4, one off the podium spots and match the position that we were in Miami, this would definitely be good. We're not going to be just yet getting over to P4 across the line as we throw our hands up in disarray as Lando Norris collides into us as he is looking to overtake and bring the battle to us, as we look to see Alonso now 700 of a second, 800 of a second, so he's just behind Lando Norris. So it'll be interesting to see if he can gain any DRS from Norris and stay within him. And when it goes onto the straights, where we are going to have a battle on our hands. Down the hill we go into the first lot of corners, hard on the brakes, but not too hard as we try to kind of ease it off too much. We kind of glide through that corner. You don't need too much acceleration, not too much brakes, just glide through it, and you can see ourselves getting further and further on it into the Grand Prix. Carlos Sainz now behind us, lap 19 out of 22. Not much is happening after we got past Norris, but he seems to be overtaken, so the mediums are definitely not working for him later on in the laps. Carlos Sainz has got the fastest lap, so he is definitely on some decent laps. We take that corner, not so bad, going over the camber. We have got resume racing though, and something is about to happen. I do believe we should get a message any second now to say what is happened, and Zhou Guanyu is out of the session. I do believe a mechanical failure as he goes through up the hill. No smoke, no nothing, so it must be a mechanical issue of some sort, but the car has to come to a stop as he looks to try and pull over in the safest position possible, trying to avoid the safety car smashing into the border with the meters of the next corner, and he has to sit there, and that is the end to his Imola Grand Prix. We are going to be focusing on who's behind us though, because Sainz is creeping up upon us. 300th of a second, 200th of a second now. Carlos Sainz any minute now. He is looking to overtake wheel to wheel. We're on the inside, late on the brakes, and we try to not go into him as so hard as we try and manage the car. The tyres are wearing. We have no overtake, but we are past Carlos Sainz, and what a little battle that was. Didn't know what to expect, and I thought one of us was going to come out worse for wear, but we seem to be nice and clean through those corners, holding it precisely with literally millimetres spare as we go up the hill now, fighting the car as the tyres are wearing on me. And this is definitely a battle for fourth now. I'll take fifth, but I definitely want fourth place. Caution again, but that is to do with Zhou Guanyu still in that sector as of the moment in sector 2. As Sainz is now 500th of a second as he looks to close the gap going down the hill, and he will be getting DRS. Norris is also behind in 800th of a second. He will be getting DRS, so again it will be making for an interesting final straight as we look to complete lap 20 out of 22, leaving only 2 laps to spare as we go hard on the accelerator. 500ths of a second splits us as we go over the checkered line. I do believe he's going to get a lot of DRS as his front wing is activated. 400ths of a second splits us, 300ths of a second. Is he going to try it on the corner? No, he isn't. As we look to go into these flurry of corners before we go up the hill. He is right on my tail though, Fernando Alonso there also, so I think I'm actually holding a few people up if anything, trying to defend the spot as much as possible. The tyres are completely gone. I'm on about 30% on these mediums, even though I've only been on them for about 10 laps. We are pushing as hard as possible, not trying to allow us any room for error as we look to go down the hill before the flurry of corners as then we go back up the hill. I love it, the sectors where you go up the hill, down the hill, the corners, everything about this circuit is just absolutely beautiful, and I love racing on it. The tricky chicane here, and we do go wide, allowing Sainz to gain a bit of time on us. He nearly goes into our rear wing as he looks to try and overtake. He's going to his left, he's going to his right, but there is no space for him to overtake as we look to go on the final straight. So this is going to be completing lap 21 of 22. As soon as we go over that checkered line, we will be completing onto lap 22. This is the last lap of the race as Carlos Sainz looks to make a move. He's got the DRS, we've got nothing left, we've got no overtake, we've got no nothing as he goes past us with such ease, with that Ferrari engine being even better than ours as we look to push hard on in this last lap of the Grand Prix. Fernando Alonso behind us, 200th of a second, 100th of a second now. He is closing the gap also, so as much as I want to take fourth place, I've also got to worry about actually keeping fifth place as we look to go up the hill late on into the brakes, trying to gain as much time as possible. We close the gap a little bit to Carlos Sainz, a lot of the back eking out on us though, and he does able to get a little bit of advantage as he goes up the hill. He gets a really good exit and he seems to be well in the distance, 600 of a second, and we go wide again there. This car is not kind of working to where we need it to be. the tyres are definitely something that we need to focus on next race as we look to go up the hill before we hit the final bit of corners. This tight, tricky chicane. Max Verstappen going over the line to say that he is still number one and he is finished first. Of course he has. Who else but Max Verstappen? As we look to try and finish our race now, this is going to be a real tight one. Going hard onto the brakes, not trying to lose us any time on the corner. A little bit wide, but that will do as we go over the camber. A little bit of dust being picked up by Carlos Sainz's car as we look to go down the hill before we hit the two final corners. One of them being here now and a little bit of a straight, and then easily into this corner, and it looks like we're going to secure P5. Yes, I'm right in saying that is P5 for JD Cook Motorsport as we cross the line. What a Grand Prix. I mean, what a way to finish it also. This has been monumental for this team, and we are picking up the points left, right and centre now as we look to try and go further on in the competition. Driver of the day being Carlos Sainz, and fair play to him because he did have a very good race, showing me how it's done, that is for sure. But the main focus is Red Bull. Max Verstappen once again claiming victory in Imola, and he is definitely showing everyone how it's done. I mean, it definitely real to real life in terms of the victories he's having, because boy oh boy is he dominating, shaking hands with his fellow teammate there, Sergio Perez, as he celebrates with his team members, and he is going to be one happy man tonight in Imola. Fair play to Max, he is racing unbelievable as they look to go now on the podium and receive their accolades. A real good Grand Prix from us. The strategy works so well. Leclerc being third place, as you see there, so that was the 1, 2, 3. But yeah, the car is working really well. There's obviously a few faults in it that I need to sort out. There's a few teething problems, but this is what this first season is about. At the end of the day, we get the car where it needs to be, and then we can go again in the second season and maybe compete for these sort of podiums and titles. We're going to be nowhere near them this season. There's no way that we're competing for any sort of title. We know that. But it's about developing the team, getting the cars where they need to be. And as you can see, confirmation of P5 being made there. Charles Leclerc being second and Sergio Perez being third. Making up the top 5 being Sainz and then myself. Liam Lawson not having the best of Grand Prix. Unfortunately, he finds himself way down in the pecking order. And if this does continue and he doesn't develop in terms of ratings, and he doesn't look like he might perform better in the second season, then we might just have to offload him and look at maybe going in for another teammate. It all depends on the budget that we get, the money that we earn and everything else. It's all in if, buts and maybes at the end of the day. I can't sit here and say with 6 rounds that have just passed that we're going to be anywhere near this lot even in the second season. We just don't know. Liam Lawson finishing in 21st, being stone dead last. Unfortunately, yeah, it's just one of those. He has got the car in that way, in terms of obviously it's not where it needs to be in terms of competing, but he can definitely do better than that. Standings, we stay 9th, but we are only 2 points behind Lando Norris, and then we are 22 points behind Fernando Alonso. So slowly but surely we are creeping up the standings and we are making a reputable name for ourselves. But yeah, as I say, a really enjoyable Grand Prix, and as we look to go into one of the trickiest circuits being Monaco, so I'm definitely looking forward to that one. I just hope you guys are. So I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Please like and subscribe for more content just like this one, and don't forget to hit the notification button so you never miss a video. Cheers.